Welcome to the Third Wing channel. Today we're going to be doing Season 3 of iCarly, the episodes, and my tiers are my favorites, iconic or classic episodes, great episodes, pretty good episodes, and could skip episodes. Episodes I could just skip. But before I begin the video, let me just mention that we've done Season 1 and Season 2 already on the channel, so check those out before this one if you want to go in order. But without further ado, let's get into the video. First, oh, and by the way, I've ordered them the pictures and the episodes in order of what date they aired on TV. So let's get into it. First, we got I Think They Kissed, which follows a season 2 episode, uh, which is when Sam goes to the dentist and she tells Carly when she's on laughing gas that she kissed Freddie. And craziness ensues. Carly puts on this crazy face and she can't believe it. And then she confronts Freddie about it. And they have this whole argument, but it ends with a subplot of the episode is Spencer is at a prison and he's helping them. No, he's teaching them how to sculpt, and then he makes these gigantic pair of pants, which is how some of the prisoners escape. And when Carly, Sam, and Freddie are arguing, these prisoners finally get out of the big pants, and they put duct tape around them, and this is when they resolve their issues, and they promise not to have secrets anymore from each other. So this episode, I think I'm gonna put in. I think it goes in either iconic or classic. We could stick it in classic for now. It's not one of my favorites, but I really like this episode for the kind of character development, and we get to this follow up on the story of the kiss, because eventually that had to come up, right? Moving on, we have I Cook, which is a episode that focuses on spaghetti tacos. It's not nearly the first episode that mentions spaghetti tacos. That was in season 1, but here we get a focus on it, and we get this famous chef who loves winning, and he loses to Spencer and the gang when it comes to making spaghetti tacos. The jury decides that Spencer's was better, and he goes into this depression. The gang tried to undepress him, uh, but then he finds something that he likes, which is he understands that he likes winning, not cooking. So he goes to his dojo and basically beats kids over and over because of his weight advantage. And then Sam puts him in his place, and they leave him there crying. He's done. They ruined him. But as for the episode, I think it's just pretty good. Doesn't really teach you anything, but I think it's okay. I think it's a little funny. Moving on, we have I Speed Date, which is a really wholesome episode. I chose this picture in particular because I love this moment where Freddie is there for Carly, and he does. She ends up having a terrible date, and he's there for her. And for that reason, almost for that moment alone, it's one of my favorites because I really do ship Freddie and Carly. But what can I say? What else can I say about it? The episode basically, it's a girls' choose dance at school. So Carly can't find a date because she messes up with her crush. So Sam gets like 750 fans to come speed date her. And yeah, it doesn't work out because it wouldn't work out with fans. So yeah, it's a pretty good episode. It's one of my favorites. I think it's really funny. Sam asks out Gibby, I believe, and Gibby says no because he has a girlfriend, which I think is hilarious. By the way, Emily Ratajkowski is the actress, which she's hugely famous now. Uh, Moving on, we have iCarly Awards, which is the one where they basically have awards for some of the best videos sent in, and instead of building uh 10 1-foot statues, he builds one 10-foot statue basically. So he needs to get them done like in an hour. So he somehow gets these 6 European swimsuit models to build them for him. It's a bit of a random episode. I think I could skip this one most of the time. It's funny at parts, but it's not the best. Moving on, I Have My Principles, which is a wholesome episode because Principal Franklin says for the second time he likes iCarly and he wants to appear for his daughter's birthday, I believe it was. And he loses his job because of it, because of, the headmaster sees it as, or whatever, which the superintendent sees it as, silly. So he gets fired. And then Ms. Briggs and Mr. Howard take over. And obviously the students hate it because, for example, Gibby gets detention for being too Gibby and everyone has to wear uniforms. But the gang figures out a way to get Principal Franklin his job back. And yeah, it's all right. I think this one can go in great. I think I like I like the creativity in this one. Moving on, and speaking of creativity, we have I Find Lubert's Lost Love, which is when they find a box of Lubert's like super secret stuff, his a box of the stuff, and they find a CD or a DVD of Lubert and a girlfriend. The first 2 weeks of them being together, where everything is magical, but and they get her this girlfriend to come back because Lubert looks so happy at this time, with good intention. But it turns out that the girlfriend is a complete psychopath, and it's why Lubert is so angry and sad all the time, and apparently why he has the war because it's stress induced. So it ends up with Lubert intentionally getting himself arrested for Chuck's crime of stealing all the TV remotes. That's a bit of a subplot, and yeah, he gets 6 months of jail time. I think it's pretty great. I think I drop it in classic. Maybe somewhere in between here. I can drop it in great for now. But I love how they involve these kind of sub characters like Chuck and Lubert. Moving on, we have I Move Out, which I think at least deserves iconic, if not favorites for me. I need to think about it a little bit, but it's where Freddy is tired of his mom embarrassing him, and he moves out to like the worst possible room in the building where the elevator shaft is constantly running, very loud, and what else? That it doesn't have a bathroom; it just has a sink or something. But and the subplot is them they take pictures of animals, and then some guys in Seattle who are like the boss of it don't like it, but it's not so important. I like the other plot better. And long story short, it's a pretty cool episode. I like to see Freddy stand up to his mother, and we see Freddy kind of maturing more, getting some ground. So I think it's an iconic episode for the show. Next, we have another iconic episode. I think I might put this in one of my favorites, honestly. It's one where um, Carly and Sam find these really funny guys, but when meeting them, they figure out that they get in this big argument, and basically they split up from their comedy gang because they get in an argument, and they each kind of assign themselves one of the two guys to kind of try to get them back together. But what they realize is that they actually have a lot in common with. Sam has a lot in common with one of the guys, and Carly has a lot in common with the other guy, and it ends up actually breaking Sam and Carly apart. But it all ends in them stuck on this washing platform for big buildings, and things go crazy, and they could have died, and they save each other's life in a way, and it's really intense, and I think it's a really well shot episode, to be honest. Well, good writing, and I love this episode. Next we have, in my mind, up there like top 3 most iconic episodes of iCarly, which is I Saved Your Life, where Freddy's dream finally is realized. He saves Carly's life from a truck running him over, but in the process he gets injured, and that makes Carly love him. And it's, for me, I think that you can analyze this one endlessly, but does Carly really love him? Does he talk her out of it? I don't think she loves him, but I think that romance could have definitely gone further than what it did. And yeah, Freddy's a bit of an idiot, and Sam ruins it for him. Gosh darn it, Sam. But this is one of my favorite episodes of iCarly. When I think of iCarly, I really think of this episode a lot. Um, yeah, it's great. You see what kind of direction I like for the show with these two. Um, Moving on, we have I Was a Pageant Girl, where we get the reveal that Sam was actually a very good pageant girl, and she gets fired because someone said that she pushed one of the girls down the stairs and blah blah blah. But basically, her arch nemesis Leanne, I think her name is about to compete in her 100th pageant or something. Like she would get our 100th victory, so she can't stand that. So she says, "Hey, Carly, can you come participate?" But when they get there and everything's ready, then Sam finds out that her ban is over actually, and she can compete. And yes, she ends up winning with some dancing and some cool stuff. I like to see this side of Sam. I think this is at the very least a great episode. I could drop it in classic. Well, maybe that's a little high. I'll put it in the top of great. Next we got I Enrage Gibby, where Gibby sees Freddy or his girlfriend, which is mentioned earlier, Tasha, trip and fall onto Freddy, and he mistakes this for her cheating on him, and he basically calls a fight between them, and then Sam is literally like training Gibby to fight against Freddy. But it all ends when Freddy figures out that they were actually recording Gibby's peanut butter jelly sandwich getting old, and that has footage of her falling on him, and that it's completely accidental, and it's all called off. And Gibby says he feels stupid for ever pointing it out. So I think this episode is cool. It's a little bit but I think it's great. I think it has its purpose, and I enjoyed it at least. Next, we have I Space Out, which is the whole episode is basically just about iCarly potentially going to space, but they have to go through this space academy. And in the end, Carly gets claustrophobia and they fail the test. So I think this is a bit of a forgettable one. Or not maybe forgettable, but I don't think it's very interesting. I guess we learn about Carly's claustrophobia, which comes back later. Next, we have I Fix a Pop Star. Because of their success with the Wade guy from last season's music video, they get hired to bring back this pop star that was super famous before. I think she's slightly inspired by like Britney Spears. But what happens is that she's pretty much completely unfixable or starable, however you want to say it. It's hard to get her back into that star shape because she's just so out of line. So what they do is they somehow get it done, but she hasn't shaved. She they have to cover everything with smoke, and all the shots have to be from far away because she's lip syncing and she's doing terribly at it. But I think this episode's pretty funny, pretty good. I wouldn't put it up here. I just personally don't enjoy it as much, I think. But I think it's cool that you get to see like a backstage kind of what happens behind showbiz, which they do a lot on the show. Moving on, we have I Won't Cancel the Show, where Carly gets to know that her dad will be able to watch the show, but Sam gets in juvie, so they have to get Spencer on the show just to fill the void or the gap. And what happens is Spencer actually already has a date planned with this really sophisticated woman, and it all, like, long story short, the show ends up going okay, but it ends up with his sophisticated date coming in, and Baby Spencer is who she meets, and Baby Spencer spits a bunch of pudding, and everyone's still in character, and it's pretty funny. I honestly really like this episode. I think it's a bit of a classic for me. I could drop it into favorites, but I'll drop it in here. Next, we got I Believe in Bigfoot, which is hilarious. What is the name of the one that Spencer believes? It's like Beaver Raccoon, Raccoon Beaver, oh man, I can't forget this. Beef Coon, that's what it is. Yeah. Spencer believes in the Beef Coon, but they're going there for Bigfoot, and basically they run into this Bigfoot specialist, and he is wearing a Bigfoot costume just to sell books, but their RV gets stolen by a roaring something, maybe Bigfoot. I think it's a really fun episode. It's one of my favorites. I had kind of forgotten this one before. I rewatched the show several times, and it was a surprise to me. I thought it was really clever. And Carly's reason for this is because she wrote an essay she got an F on, so she wanted to prove the Bigfoot's real. And I'll get into iPsycho last. I'll go do I Beat the Heat first. I Beat the Heat is a pretty relatable episode. Everyone has those days where everything is just so hot, but it ends up, and basically they end up having this Norwegian air conditioner that makes their apartment all cool. The power goes out in their house, but they have a generator. And basically the whole building comes to their apartment, and it gets crazy. And then Carly has this big speech. She has to protect her utopian city project for school. That's kind of a reasoning for the speech. But she has a speech about how we're all neighbors. We never get to talk. Maybe this is a way for us all to get together and finally talk and have some fun. But then the power comes on. Everyone leaves mid-speech. But Freddy's date gets some lemon in her eye. And yeah, she trips and breaks his utopian project. Her utopian project. But this episode, I'd throw it in great. I think a lot of people would argue it maybe here, but yeah, I'm happy with putting it about here. I think it's fun, and there's a lot of interesting interactions with characters you usually don't get. Next, we have another one similarly to I Saved Your Life. just a super iconic episode. Maybe like along with the Japan I Go to Japan episode. This episode is just iconic with Nora and iPsycho, and I think it's written very very well because it's actually kind of scary and like they really capture the psycho thing well for a young people's TV show. And I just remember I've watched this several times. I've been thoroughly entertained every time. But basically, the gang get invited to the iWeb Awards, and they get to know about this girl Nora, who's never had a birthday party that's been good, and she doesn't have any friends. So they go over to see her because she's a massive fan, and she traps them in the basement in her father's studio with plexiglass, so they can't escape. And craziness ensues, their attempts to escape, and then Gibby finally comes to the rescue after the team send an encoded message. And this is the first time we see Guppy. Oh man, this episode is so good. I love this episode. I mean, obviously it's an iconic episode, but it's also one of my favorites, so I have to throw it in here. And that is, I think I'm happy with all these placements. This season is great. I got a comment on the season 2 video saying that requesting this video, and they said it was their favorite season 3, and I think I agree. Season 3 is great. It has so many fun different episodes, but also episodes that are really important to the general storyline of iCarly. So it really ties a lot of things together, get some throwbacks, and it's just a really fun season. I'm excited to do the next one, season 4, so stay tuned for that, and check out all of our other iCarly content. I'm also going to be reviewing all the episodes of the new show, and feel free to let me know your own opinions on season 3, which episodes you like, which episodes you don't like, and feel free to let me know what other kind of iCarly Nickelodeon content you'd like to see. But that's it for today, and I'd like to thank everyone here for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.